them the drum is done now. Mass, come again, and everybody chanting now. Look at the people coming down. Together, together, now we strong. Look at the people coming down. Together, together, now we strong. I hear a distant melody blow through the hills of Lavantie. Music powerful and sweet, and when the rhythm start to beat, look how it take away the pain. I can't explain it in my veins. Find myself down in Port of Spain. I'm not the same, so got to blame every creed and race. Everybody tongue in the heart of Port of Spain. Mass, come again. Well, look how the place on fire now. Mass, come again. A spirit to bring the power down. Mass, come again. Give them the drum is done now. Mass, come again. And everybody chanting now. Look at the people coming down. Together, together, now we strong. Look at the people coming down. Together, together, now we strong. Heart of the sweetest melody. Music, mass, and love, my trinity. In a world so cold, how we so free. Welcome, let me tell you honestly. Look how we take away the pain. I can't explain it in my veins. Find myself down in Port of Spain. I'm not the same, so got to blame every creed and race. Everybody tongue in the heart of Port of Spain. Mass, come again. Well, look how the place on fire now. Mass, come again. A spirit to bring the power down. Mass, come again. Give them the drum is done now. Mass, come again. And everybody chanting now. Look at the people coming down. Together, together, now we strong. Look at the people coming down. Together, together, now we strong.
Can't hear.
Hello again. I want to welcome everybody in the room here at the West Can Folk Performing Atelier to Carnival is mass movement and music. Already we have gone through quite a few workshops on masquerade, and this tonight is the first in Carnival is music. My name is Pat Dillon Moore. I'm your moderator for this evening, and I want to welcome not only the panelists, who I'll be introducing in a few moments, but I want to welcome those of you online. Now, the last time we did this in February, oh my gosh, what a dynamic presentation we had. And I want to say it lives on Facebook and YouTube at West Can Folk. And it has garnered well over 1,000 views. So you see, we could be here doing our little thing in our corner. And when we get together around areas of culture, we can share to the world. So I want you to do exactly that. It's social media. This is the time, particularly for the shut-ins and the elderly. Share the live, share the live, share the live. I am going to call the president of Westcan Folk Performing Company to do a formal introduction. And we will also be hearing from Westcan's artistic director on why this humongous project, Carnival, is mass movement and music. Why? And where was it seeded? And have we managed expectation or have we surpassed? I don't know the answer, but I like to be trifling like that. Please welcome to the podium Malika Ford Lewis.
Hello, 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 everyone. I don't know where they want me to stand, but here, I'm here. So thank you very much, everyone, for coming out. Like Auntie Pat said, West Can Folk Performing Company, we've been around for over 45 years. We want to thank all of the people who made it possible for us to be here in 2023, still doing all the things that we do. So the Carnival is mass movement and music project. What can I say about it? It's Shiat is better to explain the project, but we love the fact that people in the community are getting a chance to learn more of their Caribbean culture, folk arts, carnival arts. And yeah, we want to say thank you all for being here in studio with us. Thank you all who are online with us. And I hope you guys enjoy.
Not yet.
Oh gosh,
Hold up.
I have more.
That's just me. Now you're in schools spreading the culture. Already, I think 50 schools know about a little spider named Anansi. And at the top of each of those workshops, you tell the children about how you come to be president of West Can Folk Performing Company. Now, I'm not interested in you per se. I more want to know about the group because foundation.
Yeah. So we tell the students, just to make it easy for them to digest, that people in my grandparents' generation, they came from all over the Caribbean. They came from Jamaica, Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, all over the Caribbean. And when they got to Montreal, they were missing the atmosphere of the Caribbean. They missed going to the festivals and hearing the drums, seeing the dancers, going to the carnivals and seeing all of that. And, they got together one Christmas time and they said, hey, you used to drum back home. You used to dance. You used to sing. You used to make costumes. Let's get together and form a group. And that's what they did. And, we've been touring all over Canada, all over Montreal. They even went to Europe back in 1980. What is it? Some yeah. Right? So we have lots of hopes and dreams and aspirations for the group to still continue another 40-something years. And hopefully our children will carry on the legacy that is West Can, created by Neville Nato Brown.
40 years later, and we're like 4 generations deep. So kudos. Goodbye.
Hello. Bye.
Hello. Goodbye. And I like to do this to them because I find public speaking is so important. Egbert and I cannot be the only big mouths in Montreal. I want to go to Shiata, the artistic director, to tell us in her mind's eye when this project came up, what were they thinking and why? And have we surpassed expectations? You could pull it right out and be you.
Hello. Sorry. Hello, good evening, everybody. Thank you guys so much for being here. Yes, like we are lovingly Auntie Pat said, my name is Shiata Lewis, and I presently sit as the artistic director for West Can Folk Performing Company. when we decided to write for this project, we really saw a need in the community amongst our peers and the younger generation, people who enjoy the carnival arts, but really don't understand what it is they're partaking in year after year. And with the growing decline in the participation in Montreal, we really saw the need for enhancing it, going back to our grassroots of it all, understanding the origins of mass culture, how the costumes are created, everything that goes into the steel pan music, the music that drives us year after year to wear the costumes and walk down the streets and chip and dance and play mass, the movements of the dancers. What is it we are looking at? Hey, what is it that we're looking at when we're seeing the masqueraders chipping, whining, gyrating, having fun in the streets? So this project is really serves to enhance that or plant a seed of knowledge in each one of the participants. And so far, the the workshops and the panel discussions have been well attended, and we want to give a vote of thanks to the participants. So thank you all. Give yourselves a hand for being here. The participants, the age range of the participants ranges from 5 to 85 plus. I don't want to call out anybody's ages, right? But it's a beautiful cross-generational project, transfer of generational information, and we're really pleased with how it's going so far. So if you're watching and you haven't come to the workshops as yet, find out about workshops and how you can get involved, you can go to our website, which is westcanfolk.com. Click on the Carnival is Mass Movement and Music, and you will see all there is to know and how you can get involved. Thank you.
She didn't suffer at all. She did not suffer at all. Now, I want to tell you, those of you here in the room and those of you online all over the world, and that's right, keep sharing the live, that in-house and online in Toronto, Canada, we have some of the more dynamic men of the soil of Trinidad and Tobago, and right in this part of the world of North America, they have done more than their fair share of keeping Pan alive and vibrant and keeping the music going and educating. So it's my pleasure to introduce our esteemed panelists this evening. You only grinning at me. I can't wait till I get to introduce you down there. Yes, you are not. I having fun. All right. To my immediate left, we have Mr. Martin Albino, who hails from Laventille, Trinidad, was born into a musical family. His mom sang and played the piano, and dad wrote songs for the children to perform on Radio Trinidad. At the age of 12, Martin performed in Auntie Kay's program and won and retained the title of Junior Calypso Monarch for 3 consecutive years. He then went on to play bongos with Choi Ming's band and Johnny Gomez's orchestra. In 1958, he joined Trinidad All Stars under the late direction of Neville Jules while attending Hillview College. He then moved on to Chase Manhattan Savoys, a neighboring steel band, and soon became the arranger and leader. Martin has arranged for City Syncopators, San Juan All Stars, East Side Symphonies in the 60s. After graduating from college, Martin taught at Diego Martin's Boys RC in 1968. He was sponsored by the Trinidad and Tobago government and PAL, the Police Athletic League of New York, to teach Pan in Brooklyn, Harlem, and Bedford Stuyvesant, a program organized to keep the youth off of the street. We fast forward to the 70s when Martin migrated to Canada in 1970. He then graduated from Concordia University in psychology and music and worked as a behavior therapist for 28 years before retiring. He now has a nonprofit organization called Savoy's Atelier de Tambour Métallique. I think that's Savoy Steel Band in French, right? He teaches youth and seniors the art of playing steel drum. He's been a panorama judge for the past 16 years and has produced not one, not two, not three, not four, but 5 CDs. Put your hands together for Mr. Martin Albino. Our next knowledge keeper, James Andrews, was a member of the Trinidad and Tobago Regiment Steel Orchestra. He's responsible for choosing players to represent Trinidad and Tobago for Expo 67. He took on the role of tuner for the Expo 67 Steel Orchestra and prepared the band for Expo. After Expo, James became the director of Simcoe Construction Company. He started Pan World Steel Orchestra in Montreal. James has played steelpan in Montreal and Toronto Carnivals. He's a member of the Trinidad Playboy Steel Band. He continues to teach steelpan to youth in Montreal. Put your hands together for our beloved Jamesy. Next, my colleague, Egbert Gaye, is the publisher and managing editor of Quebec's only bi-weekly Black newspaper. He is a graduate of Concordia University in journalism and is a regular contributor to CJD Radio here in Montreal. Formerly, he was the past president of the Eastern Region's Pan Trinbago, which is the outfit and body responsible for the promotion and development of steel band in Trinidad and Tobago. Please welcome Mr. Egbert Gaye. And our fourth panelist, who was unable to be in studio because the pan work continues. At what o'clock in the morning, he has an endeavor that continues to promote steel pan. Please welcome Mr. Salah Wilson, who has been a music teacher for 38 years with experience in communities of Montreal since 1985 and 32 years of experience in public schools since 1991. He teaches now in public schools of Toronto, TDSB since 2012, 2020, and 2023. He is proficient in steel pan music instrument and related percussive instrument. Tasks under his wheels or expertise is that of being one of the earlier pioneers for creating programs for acceptance, especially in public schools, also the planning and the development of these programs for continuity. Secondly, the creation of outlet for programs resulting in 2 annual festivals, Classics to Calypso in the winter and in the Montreal International Steel Pan Festival in the summer. And additionally, he set up a private school, Salah Steelpan Academy, where continuous steel pan classes are carried on, as well as the development of a teacher's training program to ensure that there are adequate teachers to assist in these programs. As an author, he has written and published 7 steel pan textbooks, which are currently used in programs, as well as numerous institutions of learning. As a musician and leader of the family band, he has won a few panoramas in Toronto, and I believe some here in Montreal. He's performed with all types of bands, genre of music around the world, and is also a band leader and arranger. And I have to do this because this latest book, Steel Pan Playing with Theory, is just something everybody needs to get. Please welcome Dr. Salah Wilson. I told you we had knowledge keepers. We weren't playing. Well, gentlemen, let's just jump right into it. We'll do a few questions and answer. We will hear some of your music. And then I want to have a conversation on several subjects. I'll start with you because I did you guys alphabetically, right? But Martin, I want you to tell me in your own words your understanding of the history and the beginnings of Pan. And within that, you can tell me how that intersected with your beginnings of Pan.
That's what should I say? I don't know where to start. Okay. Okay, from the time I was a young man growing up, we lived in Laventille, and come Carnival, we would see a band called Barataria Corregidors coming down from Barataria, from the east, going down to Port of Spain. In those days, they must be about, I don't remember exactly. The steel drum was just in its early stages. So you wouldn't have like a tenor pan like what you see now. Guys would be hitting a biscuit drum or something like that, or just like pans. And gradually, a couple of years after that, people started, well, they say it's, what's the guy name? Spree Simon. Yeah, Spree Simon is credited for it, but this started not only in that area, in the John area, but it started all over, that someone found that taking the drum and syncing it, they were able to find different tones. And after this, they had 3 notes on a drum first, boom, 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 something like that. And gradually, they started making more notes on the instrument. When I started with Trinidad All Stars in 1958, they had just four notes in the center of a tenor pan. And now a tenor pan has about, how many, 32 notes or something, approximately. So, it has come a long way from the time when I grew up seeing the evolution of the steel drum. As far as I am concerned, I started, of course, in the olden days, the parents never wanted their kids, their children, to get involved in the steel drum, because most of the guys who were playing pans were the guys who on the corner gambling, underprivileged people. So I had a difficult time getting involved in the steel band movement. My mom was very adamant. She said, "You're not going in that panyard." Panyard was just 2 houses from me. And she told me, "You're not going there," But of course, I didn't listen. So I would go and take off, and I'm not saying I'm going in panyard, but I end up there anyway. In those days, there's a guy by the name of 13. He got that name because they say he beat 13 guys with a piece of wood. That's how he got his name, 13. And he he was the captain of the band that I became involved in. He was just next 2 houses from me, Yes, so 13 was the captain, and I would run away and go and listen and get involved. Because I used to fool around with the piano. We had a piano in the house. My sister and my brother, they played, and I would emulate and try to play too. I got involved in playing, and then when I go to the panyard and I see what the guy's trying to do, I said, well, maybe I could go and arrange a song too. I was a teenager in 1918 or something like that, and I started arranging and go on the piano to take a song and do something, take it to the panyard, and it sounded good. So I just kept on. So in 1960, about 63, 64, we started going to the festivals with that same Savoy's band. And some people said one of the best steel band festival was 1966. A lot of people talk about that. That year, we were in the finals with North Stars, Anthony Williams, Starliff. Starliff is what? Philo, Albert James, Guinness Cavaliers. Incidentally, all these three people who have just called here, they have since passed on. Bobby, I think there's only one, maybe one guy who was around in that time while I was there. I don't remember his name, but from Cinco. I don't remember his name. So it just showed that when I started there, I was a teenager. And I think the only two people, the two youngest people there were myself and Bobby Mohammed in that festival. That festival, Cinco and North Stars played the same song, Poets and Peasants. And I think that was one of the greatest songs, classical songs ever played on pan in Trinidad. Yeah, anyhow, so that's where I started and continue, or that's enough?
You're going good, but I need a few more seconds.
I know you told me no longer than 7 minutes, so I've been careful.
Bring James, he just left.
Yeah, so okay. I continued there. Like I said, I went to All Stars.
Tell us what song you played at
Eh?
1966 festival.
In the 66 festival, well, you know, we are very close to Trinidad, very close to Venezuela. And I heard a song called Dama Antonona. Ba-da-da-da-da-dum-dum, da-dum-dum. And I said, that's a great tune. I'm going to do that. And that we went with that song and we made the finals with those big bands. I'm just going to say a little bit about when I left Trinidad to come to Canada. It was in 1970. And I was attending the Trinidad Day. I don't know if it's still going on, but it's not as active. It's not as like before. Anyhow, I was at the Trinidad Day at Angrillon Park, and some guys came around there with 2 or 3 pans, and they were actually interfering with the performance that was going on. And that idea came to me right away. I said, you know what? I'm going to start back my band here in Montreal because, I mean, like, we need to have the pan. Everybody needs that. Everybody loves pan. But I mean, not in the way that these guys were using it. And that was my incentive to start right after that, the same year. I started talking to guys here who had pans and stuff like that. I said, I need to start back my band. I got about 3 or 4 old pans. Some guys helped me put in some notes. I think Andrews helped me with a couple pans too. And that's how I started back my Savoys. It was Chase Manhattan Savoys in Trinidad, but I started back Savoys here, and we are very active now. I did 2 St. Patrick parades, the 19th of February this year, the 26th of February in Chateauguay. And while doing that parade in Chateauguay, I was approached by the Saint Jean Baptiste Society. So we're going to be doing that parade on the 24th of June. And I always do the Canada Day Parade in Pierrefonds on the 1st of July. So my group is very active still, and I'm continue to teach youths and seniors to play the steel drums.
Okay. Jamesy, a storied time, and Egbert, if you could just give him the actual mic. How are we doing for sound? Is someone checking to see if anybody complaining? We good? Nice. Jamesy, when you say Expo 67 to certain people of a certain age, and even some of us youngins, right? People's eyes light up. Tell us about that storied time of the steel pan, where my research has shown that if you wanted to go where the action one of the most popular pavilions at Expo 67, and it wasn't only because of the rum, was the Jamaican Pavilion and the Trinidad and Tobago Pavilion. Tell me some of the anecdotes and times there with all of the brothers playing in what is now Parc Jean Drapeau?
Well, my experience there was the highlight of my career as a panist. And the experience there was second to none. I haven't yet reached that height after that. We were the first steel band to combine the services or forces of Trinidad and Tobago. I'll be going up and down in the history. Like Martin was explaining, the 66 festival, I was also part of that festival. The regiment steel orchestra. When I joined the regiment, I decided this is family time. I wanted to have nothing to do with pan. I said, let me see about my family. I was 5 years into marriage. And an officer from England come up to me and say, somebody tell him that I'm a panist. So when he came to me, he said, we'd like you to make a set of pans and train the soldiers to play pan. I said, no way. I don't want no part of this. At that time, I didn't sign in yet. We were still at the St. James Barracks. And the day we signed in, he came in and he said, you're now under Her Majesty's service. You will. So I had no choice. And anyway, that went on. That I went to England, the National Steel Orchestra. When I came back, the officer came and said to me, the commanding officer came and said, prepare the band for the 66 festival. It's not only about the festival, but it have a world engagement. And if you do well, automatically you'll be going. So rarely, a lot of people used to come around the steel orchestra. And if you're from the east or central part of Spain, the west will not want to hear nothing about somebody from the east arranging or tune in. So I had that problem. I had a lot of guys from the west, good players, but unfortunately, they only come around when they could get away from normal duty. Anyway, I went in the festival, and in the preliminaries, was the only orchestra ever went in a festival and get a 10 minutes standing ovation. Okay, I don't know because I think the music was very good. We played a tune called Martyr, the overture Martyr. And when we went in the festival, we were ready for the final. And the adjudicator did not adjudicate the band because of the president of the National Steel Band organization. When I went to him and I asked him, I said, why it is it not at least, I would like to, even if I didn't reach final, give me semi-final. He said to me, Jamesy, all of you guys in good jobs. So give the fellas outside a chance. But the night of the final, we was invited by the Trinidad and Tobago government culture department, and we signed a contract to come to Expo 67. While they were saying to Panam, you are the band for World Tour. Because at that quarterfinal, a prime minister goes to a final. And all his dignitaries, they come to the quarterfinal. So they heard the band. Anyway, we got chosen to come to Canada. It was supposed to be 32 of us in its natural form, but I think Anthony Prospect got involved and they started propaganda. Well, you can't just send the police alone. They can't just send the regiment alone. So to avoid conflict, they decided to choose a few from the police. So I had to audition these guys, and that is how we band get down from 32 to 20 to 21, 22, including Prospect. Arriving here in Montreal, Expo 67 was something else. It was the first band that ever left Trinidad officially to come to North America as a steel orchestra. I was also tuner. I also had a tuner set of pans here to maintain the amount of engagement we had. Then we toured Canada, went back home for 68, and then we got invited up to tour Canada again, which we did. Arriving back in Montreal, of course, we did Expo 68. During that time, in the end of 68 or 69, I think we were playing in Sherbrooke, and we needed a drummer, and my good friend here, Martin. Yeah. Martin said, we auditioned a lot of guys, you know. And then I turned and said, listen, I know a friend of mine, you know, who could play drums. So he fit come in on that board. As, pay me? Yes, you were paid, well paid too. Going back to the history of Pan, I was a little kid, and Pan was all around me. And I must say, I was the first teacher that started to teach girls to play Pan.
Ooh, ladies.
And the Samaru, yeah.
Ladies.
Somehow I was fascinated about girls around me. For the right reason, anyway. So the first kid was the Samaru kids, Samaru sisters. I started with them. Samaru didn't start to arrange yet. They were little kids. And from there, I tried to get other girls involved, but the parents. But that family had a love for music from day one. I learned a little bit of piano from Dalit Ari. In my tuning days, I didn't know anything. I was playing Chiami. We were playing at the airport. And his guitarist came and said to me, Jamesy, your pants is slightly off, you know? And I said, what do you mean? Because I used to just play from a tune pan. Not tune, but blend. Those times I was just blending. And he's the first person to show me about fourths and fifths in the musical instrument. I didn't learn this from a panist. At that time, most of the tuners were just tuning basic leg. So the pan never used to resonate as it do today. In order to get that, for the pan to resonate, you need the fourth and the fifth. But today we go into a deeper part of that. And when I started the tune with fourth and fifth, Neville Jules, I joined All Stars. And when I joined All Stars, Jules was going out. He was more or less focusing just on arranging. So I joined the band, and I revolutionized the whole band. They had no double pan. All the pans were single. The tenors only had 4 notes in it, and the tune from E. No sharp flats. And I always wonder how this plays some of the sweetest melody. So I take the pan and I redesign the pan using his pattern, but modifying it. And they still have, when I go home, they still have a lot of those styles because a lot of people from the old days like it. Those are the pans I came up here with. It's similar to the 4th and 5th, but not entire. And then I started as a young tuner in Trinidad and Tobago. Nearly every band in Port of Spain I was tuning for. In the Port of Spain area. I started the first steel band in Tobago. Right? But pan started really between 1935 37. And it started, and the history I know is that we had something called Columbus Day, whereby not pan, but tango bamboo, the bamboo, playing the bamboo, was outlawed for 2 years. And then the government, it was some celebration, decided to bring back the Discovery Day. And the young kids at that time, I remember guys like Kimlo and running around, stealing dustbin. They used to make dust, your cash, your garbage can out of caustic soda. And Bermuda, a company in Trinidad, had a biscuit drum made out of caustic soda. And I had to wrap towel around the hand and played. In the heat of the sun, hitting caustic soda, it will eventually give you tones. So there, boom, 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 boom. It had to change tone. And someone, it's either Fisheye or Simon Spree, parted it in half. Trinidad had no telephone, no telecommunication, period. If you have a phone, you have to be Mr. or Mrs. this or that. You know what I mean? So, and the news spread in no time all over Trinidad. So no one could claim the full conception of the beginning of pan because it was a whole, everybody started doing, no one man could claim that conception. And after the next generation come in and started slowly, because tuners were scarce. No one wanted to tune a pan because there was no money to be made. Imagine I tune a band like All Stars, whole entire band. The whole entire band. I worked for nearly 6 months. You know how much money I got? Anybody can make a guess. Come again. $60. $60. And I nearly fall through the roof.
I'm going to jump in here.
Yes.
And I promise the audience that this first question is going to be the only one that I let them wax poetic. Excuse me. I want to go to Egbert.
Okay.
Egbert, you're about 3 minutes younger than our knowledge keepers here. And you were part of, if you will, the structural side. I want to hear about your beginnings in pan, particularly when you knew, I love this. But I want to hear a bit about where, pan was this thing that was frowned upon and its gradual move, and perhaps if you were part of that movement towards respectability.
You know what? The history of Pan is such a dynamic thing. Is that let's kind of fast forward to today. Pan has become one of the most respected instruments on the musical scene today. So it's represented in concert halls and music programs, universities across North America, Europe. It's, Carnegie Hall. Every big concert hall can claim to have had a steel pan appearance in the last 20, 25 years, 3 decades. The pan is not a very old instrument. Just like, it's so dynamic that we have 2 of the founders here, 2 of the history keepers. They with us talking about pan.
Put your mic up,
right?
babes.
So we're looking at a dynamic instrument that has kind of fast forward, leaps and bounds, and take over, and was able to position itself on the international scene easily. And it's all because of the dynamism of these guys. Now, listen, every pan men and pan people are a special breed of people. They dynamic, they inventive, they miserable, they all kinds of crazy things. But the history that they bring is something else. Martin Albino touched a little bit about Hillview College. Now, I went to Hillview College, right? Hillview College is, for the most part, when I tell people I went to Hillview, you went to that Indian school up there with all them bright people, it's consider that. But Hillview College had the first steel band in Trinidad because of him. So we're looking at people who kept history. Jamesy brought the first band out of Trinidad, amalgamation of the services, because Trinidad wanted to show its most disciplined side. So we sent these guys up here, North America. So we had that. All right. And then Montreal became a key part in the history of pan in North America and Europe because, again, of these guys. Montreal, and of course, you have Salah who's going to be coming on.
Mm-hmm.
So, when I got into pan as a 7-year-old kid. I had my uncles tuning pan in the yard, and they taking, and like everyone else, you start playing pan and you never stop. Because that's how we are. Look, I'm a pan guy. Everything I've done is pan. When I got into pan as an organizer, I was 18, 19 years old. And then fast forward a little bit to 1979. The structure of pan was something else. Because we hear them talking about the struggles. So they brought that struggle to 1979. So when I got into pan, the government was giving us $300. $300 per band to appear in the panorama. We would have 70 to 80 bands in panorama, and it just goes crazy in the savannah. $300 we were getting. At that time, a tenor pan was costing a little more, Jamesy. It was costing $350. So a band that's going to panorama with 20, 15, 20 tenor pans, they get $300. And when we went to the government, that's when I became part of Pan Trinbago. And we went to the government and we said, well, are you mental? Pan belonged to the community. All the kids in one community rallied behind that band. So it was for him, so it was for him, so it was for Desperados. You're up on the hill, everybody with Despas. And same with All Stars, Savoys. Those Savoys people will still talk to me today about the Elizabethan serenade that Martin arranged because they believe in it. So Pan was part of the community, and we went to the government and we said, well, $300 is, you're joking. And we asked them for $5,000, which sent them crazy, of course. $5,000, you guys mental. I don't know where you guys, Eric Williams, he just he think we mad. 5,000, so they say no, obviously. So Trinidad we started to get oil money. We started to become thing.
Your mic.
Right? And so we decided, well, that year, because Pan was an integral part of Carnival, because from the history that they gave you, Pan became the instrument that drove the subculture. They used to be known as the jamet culture. Today we use jamet in a different way, but it was a jamet culture. But pan was that from the tambu bamboo, from that biscuit drum, from that thing, pan evolved. And Spree Simon and Martin and Jamesy, and they took pan to another level. And then it started driving that subculture. So we needed pan, and pan Juve morning, the best experience that the whole world of people would have is listening to one of these guys' songs on a Juve morning. That chip and that thing and that bomb and that early 4 o'clock in the morning going down there. These guys used to be practicing for weeks and weeks. Nobody know what it is. Nobody know what they're playing. And then it's Paris Burden. you know, and some of the big Juve morning sounds. So that was the setting for pan. So when we went there, we tell the government, listen, pan is coming from communities. You have to pay for that. And they didn't want to do it. We called off the panorama that year. We said, no more panorama, nothing.
You showed your jamet side, essentially.
Well, yeah, we did. And, you know, Kitchener sang about that. No pan in it. I tell you, right? And well, next year, the government conceded. Today, the band that wins Panorama get $1 million. $1 million. The appearance fee is somewhere around 200 and something thousand dollars. So we had a role to play, and we played that role. But more important, I came up here in 81, I think. But between 79 and 81, when I came up here, what happened is a couple integral things. You hear them talk a lot about the festivals. So we knew how important it was to get that festival back in play. And that's when we joined with Kirpalani and a couple of the other bigger private companies and got back the first festival in 1980. Pan is beautiful too. Pan is beautiful, right?
But you had to clean up a lot of your acts because Pan represented.
I'll come to that. I'll talk about that. So Pan is beautiful, 1980. I just want to fast forward quickly. And we got Kirpalani, that at that point is we being so radical, but we were able to get private sector, government, join on, get back that festival, because the festival is an integral part of the development of Pan. And that festival was like the most spectacular one we had in a long time after the 1966. I mean, to hear Trinidad All-Stars play morning, noon, and night in Vienna by Von Suppe. Many people think he's black. I think he's a German thing. Von Suppe, morning, noon, and night in Vienna. And you hear those gypsies. We had it at that netball place, Jean Pierre Stadium. And to hear that thing in the night, and to hear Casablanca, it was Newton's played Slave, a Sparrow composition that I think that one of those arrangers turned into a thing. It was spectacular. My band came fifth. I played with a little band, little known, my band that from my own band. Yes, my band came fifth, right? And Klondike's came fifth, but we had like big arrangers who joined with us, and it was spectacular. So the thing about it is 1980, 79, 80, 81, we were able to get the government to move on that $200 thing, $300 thing that they paid Pan, but we also got the music festival back in school. 1981, we got the most important thing for Pan was the school panorama.
I'm stopping you there because I have that.
Yeah.
And I want to go to my friend who's sitting by himself in Toronto.
Yeah.
And I want to hear a bit of your history, but I want to hear how your history, the moment you knew, how old were you, that it's got to be Pan, and that what was the impetus that took you all the way to a certain boldness that made you say in 2013, I am going to go to York University as a master's student, and I am going to get a PhD in steelpan musical education. You need to give me your proper title, but you know, no disrespect, you're a slender fellow. So if I'm to just dream, I seen a little squilly fellow. He discovers pan, and now he becomes Dr. Salah Wilson. Tell me about that in less than 4.5 minutes.
Greetings, peace, Montreal. Sorry, I'm not been able to be there today, but nevertheless, this is live. I want to begin first of all, Pat, by acknowledging a few people. I'd like to acknowledge a pioneer who has been there since the 50s. This is Bert Bolden. I know he's not too well, otherwise I would have been surprised why he's not on this show today. But I'd just like to acknowledge Bert Bolden and a couple other people. One of them is Winston Skippy, who was also in the 60s with Andrews, and also Nolly Smith. These people have also been big contributors to this. I just wanted to acknowledge that. So we're talking about history here and so many beautiful stories. But guess what? Who's writing these stories? Who are the authors? Who are the people who are writing these stories? We need to encourage our young people to start writing, to start understanding what is research, go and do the proper research so that we can have all these beautiful stories that we are hearing, have them recorded and documented so that we can form our own books to know about these things. I've just recently had the pleasure of interviewing 3 pioneers. Emmanuel Jack Riley, who was known as the most prolific steel pan improviser in the 50s and 60s, and also a master pan tuner. Also, Mr. Rudy Tulef Smith, who has left Trinidad in the 60s as one of the most prolific jazz musicians on steel pan today. And also Ansel Joseph, who was a prodigy of Ellie Manet. And these gentlemen today, they are still doing steel pans, but nobody is telling their story. So I am going to write about them. But we're saying this so that Trinidad could understand that these people who are doing all these things need to be acknowledged and recognized. So I just wanted to mention that and to emphasize that we need to encourage our younger people to do more writing and to do more research so that we could put all these stories together. I just want to say something else too about the history. There's a whole bunch of stuff, so it's going to take a whole show to just talk about the history. But some things that I just want to connect some dots on the history. You see, we know pan came from Trinidad, okay? But what we are not fully aware of is that the steel pan concept came from Africa. This is important, you see. And let me explain how simple this is. Trinidad was not one of the main countries for enslavement of the African for the first 300 years. But the last 50 years saw a great influx of enslaved Africans coming to Trinidad, mostly from the west coast of Africa, the Nigerian coast. And these people came, and they brought their Shango religion. At the same time, I must mention that Nigeria is still the most populous Muslim country. So there's documented information that Muslims also came and were enslaved Africans. In Trinidad and also in Guyana, there's recorded histories of that. But the Shango people who came, they brought their drums, not with them. It was not possible for the Shango people to bring their drums because, look, this picture here. This is a picture then, it's supposed to affect us. And this is why I'm presenting this, because this is how we came from Africa. It was not a gig. We didn't bring our musical instruments. It was not a tourist gig, so we could not have brought our drums with us, but we did bring them in our hearts and minds. And the proof of this is manifested in Trinidad. During the pre-emancipation period, drums were banned in Jamaica, in Barbados, and in America by the Slave Code of 1740. The North Carolina Slave Code of 1740 banned drums. And it was banned before that in Jamaica and Barbados. But in Trinidad, the drums were never banned. How do we know this? Because we utilized those same drums during the canboulay. What is the canboulay? This is the burning of one plantation. And when we had to go to the enslaved African Trinidadians, we're going to another plantation. It was a procession. So you could just imagine we're going from one plantation to the other. We didn't go holding hands, saying nothing. It was the first beginning of the jump up that we now celebrate. When we connect the dots, we see this is what happened. And hand clapping, singing, and drums were employed. But what's important is that the Shango people bought 3 types of drums. And this is the key and the link. So that pan didn't happen by guess in Trinidad. It's a scientific thing that happened. So the 3 drums that the Shango people bought was the bass, the middle, and the high. Okay, and this concept, the bass, the middle would be to carry the percussion, and the high would be the improvising cutting. This same thing later would transfer. This concept of these 3 drums would transfer later on. When the drums were banned in Trinidad, eventually, they were banned in 1884. And there's a whole story, but we can't get into all of that, but they were banned. And when they were banned in 84, then Trinidadians began to rebel. They rebelled against the banning of the drum, and it manifested in 1910 when we transferred that 3-drum concept of the Shango skin drums to the bamboo drum. So in the bamboo drum now we had the bass, then we had another, which was the middle, which would be the fule, it's called that, and then the top would be the cutter, the one to improvise. So this concept has been transferred from the skin drum to the bamboo drum. Eventually, this happened since 1910, and in the early 1940s, just when the underground movement of the steelpan during the wartime, this transformation also occurred with the 3 concept of the 3 skin drum, bamboo drum, and now the steel drum, with a bass, a middle pan doing the strumming rhythm, and then a top pan playing the melodies. So this same concept was transferred. So this is what we're saying then, that the concept, the steelpan concept, came from Africa, manifested in Trinidad, and then transformed into eventually what we call a steelpan. And then this began the diffusion of this, spread into different. First of all, of course, was Tobago. Tobago got it the same way as how any village of Trinidad or any small city of Trinidad would get the steelpan. And then the next diffusion would be to the other Caribbean islands. You know, Antigua. Well, we've heard the story that steelpan started in Antigua, but this is incorrect. It really started in Trinidad, and it was diffused and spread to the Caribbean islands first. And we know of it being spread to England in 1951 with Taspo. But there's a gentleman named Rudy King who went to New York in 1949 and started steelpans there. Okay, and then it began spreading. In the 50s, we had like Bert Bolden, Louis Blaisdell, and a few people in Montreal. And then in Toronto, we had Cello Gomes and other people who were doing this here. In Vancouver, it took till 1959. This was mid-50s, but by 1959 in Vancouver, a guy named Wilson Moon, also Trinidadian, began the steelpan business in Vancouver. So this is how it spread to Canada. And we continue to do this. So you asked me, how did I get started? I first just want to acknowledge that this is 50 years since I came to Canada in 73. I left Trinidad. I got married, and 10 days after I got married to my Trinidadian wife, I came to Canada, to Montreal, with my wife and my steelpan. And I'm still married to both of them. And we have produced six children and 11 grandkids, and everyone is involved in steelpan development. So I started because I could remember as early as 5 years old when my mother taken me down to, that's when the Flamingo steelpan started in the village. It happened in my grandmother's backyard. My uncle and a lot of other relatives were responsible for doing this. And this, must have been about 5 years old, but I recall going down to my grandmother's house, and the steelpan is in the back. We, of course, were not allowed to go near there. But this is my first entry, and I would just be intrigued by the steelpan. There was a windowsill, I remember, just banging on it when the steelpan was playing in the back. So this is my early entrance, and I thought all my relatives loved it as much as me. But it turned out not quite so. But this is the growth of it, and I came to Montreal, and the first person I met in Montreal was a guy who I never had a bad word with. And he picked me up at the airport. This is Loveman Kent Merchant. Yeah. Big respect. So long he has passed on, but I never had a bad word with this guy. And, you know, he's been there, you know, and never asked me for anything. And I was always, so I'm so grateful for him. So I just needed to mention Kent Merchant's name in this whole episode. And yeah, so this is, we decided to come here, and I pursued pan. As a matter of fact, in the first 2 weeks that I got here, I got a gig at La Siesta. An Indian group was playing there, and they asked me to come with my pans, and I went. I thought I had made it. because here I am in Canada. In 2 weeks, I'm playing a gig at La Siesta, right on St. Catherine Street, altitude 1440. This was a big do. However, I had to wait for a whole year for the next gig. And the next gig would only come when we started to do the Montreal Festival. Toronto was ahead of us since 1967 with the Caribana. But we put out our Carifette in 74. And it turned out to be one of the biggest events that happened in Montreal. And it was the year of the bassman, so of course Shadow was there. The Mighty Sparrow was of course there. Crazy was there. But our main guest of honor was none other than Muhammad Ali, just before he fought George Foreman. So this was the big do. And the Carnival was great, and we did quite a lot of stuff. And everything started to continue to grow bigger. There's a problem here because after that first year of the Carnival, everything went downhill. So today, what we have representing the Carnival is a sham of what happened in 1974. And I have to say that we are the people responsible for that. For why did we not grow from 1974? Well, something happened in 75. We never understood what we have with this steel pan. And what did we do? The government gave us, I need to mention this, the government gave us some $60,000 way back then in 1974. We should have been able the next year to get twice the amount. You know what? We got the twice the amount, but we didn't get it the right way. One Trinidadian went to the city of Montreal and told the city of Montreal that they're responsible for the Carnival, and the city gave them the permit. That the city has been doing this to the Caribbean and the Black people, painting us with one brush. So when the real people, which was led by the people who graduated from the St. George Williams University, led by Leroy Butcher, when they went to the city said we would give the permit, but they had no choice now but to give another permit. So here we are in 1975, two carnivals going on the same day, one going east and one going west. But that was the end of what we should have done and what could have done. So it's going to take all of that for us to come back to realize that error, and the city has held us accountable for it because, and I'm blaming the city too. Of course, I blame us, and I blame it, and I might go to just a big word of institutional racism that has been employed that, they have not continued to support us. So today, when we have a carnival of getting 60,000 in 1974, and the last time I inquired about the carnival was somewhere about 2010, and I was told that we were given, because they wanted to try to get me back into the carnival. But how can I get into that carnival when you are now giving them 35,000 in 2010? I don't know what they're getting in today, but I don't think it's going to be much more than that. So this is something that we have to look at. How can we get 60,000 in 1974, and we're going to give us 35,000 in 2010?
So now, is it the fight of the angst and the passion of the art form that led you to say, no, I need to bring it up in the university so that we can be taken seriously? Because we are going to get into education in this next rounds, but I do not want to leave without touching upon Pan moving from where, to use Egbert's phrase, jam it culture, but now you have a PhD in it. Like, who'd have thought? That bold-facedness. And so I have to ask, was that anger the impetus for you to say, no, we need to make people take the art form, the culture seriously? Let's go up in the university.
Well, we need to get angry. Anger is a good thing sometimes, because when you get angry, you realize some things are not what they are, and you have to do something about it. And as you know, we've been pushing the pan. We've introducing it to the public schools, and we introducing it to the community, and we started to present, outlets for it. For me, we continued doing this, and since 1994, we've been going to Toronto representing Montreal. And yes, at somewhere around 2010, 2012, I stopped and I asked the question, am I going to be doing this same thing all the time? And there's no support and there's no resources. So I decided, you know, I better get back to school, because if I get back to school, I believe I'm going to satisfy a passion inside of me, for one thing. And then I believe I might be able to get more information to do things what I want to do with the steel pan. And this is the impetus that pushed me to go into school. When I went to Toronto, I just turned 60. I did not know that there's free education, university level. So when I came to pay my first bill, I had no bill to pay. So I said, who paid my bill? Then they realized, oh, how old are you? Okay, I'm 60. The funny thing is, no one in Toronto, in the Black community, in the Pan community, knew about this. So I had to come and inform all my friends and colleagues to get to school, guys, because it's free education at 60. So within that, from 2012 till 2022, more than 10 people of my age and so on, younger too, went to school at York University and completed, who did their first degree or who did their second, including pan tuners and so on. So this was a great move for that. So yes, education is important, and we need, by all means, to continue to raise the topic and raise our level. So yes, education is important, and I'm really pleased, and I'm glad I encourage other people. And we need to do more of this, especially younger people. You know, we should not be waiting. You know, I mean, I'm not the best of example, because I should have done this when I'm in 30 and 40, you know, but I'm saying again, I did it too, to make sure then to let my kids know, you know, you're never too late to get educated. So yes, I think it's a very important thing.
I think this, before we start talking about youth and education, I want to play some music, because it's wonderful to talk about pan, and but we need to listen a little pan. So I'm going to ask our in-studio technician to give us a little bit of pan. And we are going to start with whose music first, please? So we're going to hear some of the music. 5 CDs by your bull. All right. Let's listen to a little pan by Martin Albino.
Trinidad is my life. I know the lion growing but I can't understand why some people just talk about. But I know all of them running them on. You don't know what you're talking about. They will think you're black every day, the right thing. They will never say like our sportsmen. I rated them on the best. Our scholars have sit and pass their test and put us above the rest. But our picture is the greatest one of its kind. Our sugar and oil is ready to find. So you see, friends, this is a real King Solomon's mind. They just talk some nonsense. I ain't know what they're doing it for. Well, so much violence, you would swear that you're fighting war. We have our delinquents to face, just like any other place. But things they the same on here is ready for me to bear, because my people are daily making progress without any kind of foolishness. In this way we must have success. For when we move in, we all move as one body. No bickering between you and me. So our policy stands for racial equality. Now when I say that spending a little time in this lovely isle, every day you see him, you always have a happy smile. When it's time for him to return, he will say with a heavy heart, I'll be back, you could get your way. And if I can't come, I will send your wife. And then he tells me he really wants her to come to drink some rum and have plenty fun. It is great idol in the sun. For Trinidadians, foreigners will recall. It doesn't matter if you're big or small, or if you're rich or poor, we will care for one and all. All of them talking, they either drunk or they scaring man, or maybe they forget him. It's a Trinidad, love Trinidad. We have many talent and skill. We can't go something to the hill. And if they think, boy, this is a lie, young Albino will tell you why. Because our Steelpan, the best talent in the world. By calypso's all stories are true. Rhythm is to touch your soul. For Trinidad, this lovely land of my own. Small like overwhelming. And the Carnival is the greatest running on our Watching of Trinidad.
Hey. So I think right about now we have some live pan. And as we get ready for the live pan, I want to talk to you. I'll go first to you. Is it easier to teach the youth or the seniors? And I ask that because I imagine, because where I am now, and I get into the senior thing just now, but there is a sort of freedom that I have now in my mind. Whereas when you're young, you're kind of shy, perhaps, or repressed. So this is why I'm asking the question. Is it easier to teach children versus seniors?
Me, I think right now, the seniors are more enthusiastic to me because they want to get some digital dexterity. They want to be occupied, involved in something. I find so more than the young people, like you have to be pushing the young people to say, this is something good you should be doing, you know?
There's a hesitancy there.
Right.
Egbert, while we wait for Jamesy to come forward, earlier this month, because we're still in April, right? You talked about a whole movement of work that went on here and to some degree Trinidad to seed pan in schools. Could you briefly tell me about some of the initiatives and some of the work?
It's important as we talk about bridging that gap, because we did the Steelpan history come out of violence and ugliness, and where Martin's mother didn't want him near a band, same as Jamesy and same as my parents.
Yeah.
But the added respectability started with Martin Albino. He was in high school. Pelham Goddard and all those guys, those all noted and iconic arrangers, they all went high school and brought that respectability to pan, right? So we realized at some point that pan and the school and the community was going to be the way forward. In Trinidad, back in 1981, when we had that first school steel band festival and panorama, and that today most of the bands are being fed by those school bands, right? And so you fast forward and you look at Montreal, you look at Martin, look at Salah, and you would see that they brought that same enthusiasm, bring it to school, bring it to communities, because that's where pan belongs. Pan belongs in community and in schools. And the thing, Jamesy was what? James was a teenager when he got into pan. Martin Albino was a teenager. I was in my early 20s when I was doing pan Trinbago. Today we seen a bunch of old people running pan in Trinidad. They all are gray beards and they all old people. They all old people. You can have that. It's youth. It belongs in young. Look at the example. They started young. When I watched Salah playing in Flamingos, Salah was like one of those glory guys in Trinidad. He's on that second pan. I aspire to be it. Salah ain't that much older than I am.
So now we do know that Salah and these gentlemen here had a hand in gaining a foothold in the schools in Montreal.
Mhm.
But what about in Trinidad? Tell me a bit of how the acceptance from something that was
But I left Trinidad in 1981, right?
okay.
And when I left, Pan Trinbago's Pan in School initiative was a significant one. So we had a guy like someone like Teddy Belgrave running something like that. Teddy is he was here in Montreal during the 1969 riots at Concordia, right? So Teddy Belgrave went back to Trinidad and he was running that Pan in School initiative back in the 80s, 70s, late 70s, 80s, 81, 82. And Pan became ingrained in school. Salah can speak a little bit about that. Salah book was one of the driving forces in helping that Pan in school.
Earlier book.
The earliest one, right? The earliest Pan, steel pan playing with theory, was one of the earliest. The Trinidad government invested significantly in buying that book and getting people things because we needed to have Pan in school, and we needed more than ever. I think Salah can speak even better in making the Pan Theater a school and a place of learning and a place where we can build and develop Pan.
Salah, would you agree? I don't know. Do I have a mic here?
Yes.
All right. Would you agree that perhaps it was once Pan, there's a book, there's a textbook. Did the people that be the powers of be say, oh, yes, well, now we can work with this? Was there any resistance to seeding the government and depositing the book in schools in Trinidad? And this is during a time for sure that everybody loves Pan at this point.
This is a good question. First of all, let me just say, to correct something, the first steel pan in a public school. I have done the research, and the first steel pan in a public school happened at a strange place. The Mount St. Benedict had a college. Mount St. Benedict, that was run by white priests from Holland. And the majority of people there were light-skinned people and people of, Portuguese and so on. So the first steel man in a public school happened to be there because this guy named Calypso Bandit, who also came to Toronto and won the first Calypso King contest, he started the first steel band. He got Neville Jules in 1950. 1950. So this is the first recorded information of a steel band in a public school. And this happened at a very strange place at a school run by some priests from Holland. So I just wanted to clear that up there. Now, how did this steel band? I wrote this book, and ever since I wrote it and I published it, self-published in 1999, my whole desire for this book was to bring it to Trinidad. I needed it for me in my school here where I was doing, but I wanted to bring this book to Trinidad because I was not impressed with what was going on in Trinidad. And I used the fact that in Toronto, Pan Pat and a lot of the Caribbean community started the steel bands with the school board and the municipal government in the public schools. It's a whole long story to get this, but it was initiated by the Caribbean community people. And a decade after this, and it was meant, this is because of the politics in Quebec, and when everything went after 1976, culture and money and everything went west because they took the 101, because they took the 401 because of the 101, Bill 101. So everything went to Toronto. So now a new lot of people coming in did not choose Montreal like I did in 73 when I came here, but they all came in, and it was meant they decided the amount of influx of Caribbean people coming to Toronto, they wanted to find which was best, but it's mostly Jamaicans coming in, but they wanted to find what was best representative of the Caribbean. So they decided the steel pan is the best thing. So they put this in to attract the Caribbean people, but the pan was so inclusive that it soon spread so quickly that they had no choice but to have it inclusive for everyone. This is in the mid-70s. A decade later, in mid-80s, the provincial government got involved and they initiated accreditation to the program. This is a milestone in steel pan development, that we have pan in Canada as not just extracurricular activities, but accredited programs. So with this in mind, this was one of the things that pushed me to write the book and to get Trinidad to come up to par with what is happening in Canada. So how did this come about? After writing my book and going down with Exodus and trying to promote it for the past few years, somewhere in 2004, 2005, the Trinidad contingent sent a group of people to Montreal. And they wanted to do an experiment with education. So they sent people to McGill. And because they knew we had a steel pan program since 1991 when we introduced the program, and this is 2005. And let me tell you, I had some great students in that class that I had from grade 3, 4, 5. So by grade 6, after 4 years, I had them. They were able to produce somewhere 30, 40 songs, a repertoire that big, inclusive of all kinds of genres of music. So the Trinidad, and I also had my book. So the Trinidad contingent came into Coronation School and we had to entertain them. So we did entertain them. We gave them a great show. You know, I'll tell you the reports and the remarks that I got from the people there. They told me straight up, Salah, if we were to get any steel band, any school steel band, we could not find a school steel band that could match up to what you are doing here right now with this level of stuff. How are you doing this? And then I just showed them my book and they went bonkers with that. And they told me right away, we are going to get this book. So it happened. It took a few years. It took not a few years. Within a year, I had a contract from the government of Trinidad and Tobago to produce that book. And that was a good contract. It was a big contract. Halfway along the line, it got cut because of Trinidad's, the mess that was going on in Trinidad. And
budget cutbacks, I'm sure.
Misappropriation of funds. But anyways, I was able to do what I can do with that. And I'm hoping to get another contract sometime soon.
All right, thanks. Listen, we're going to move over to James Andrews because it's one thing to talk about this glorious instrument, credited with being the only instrument to be developed and introduced in the 20th century. But I think we need to listen to the beauty from our pioneers and knowledge keepers. So I'm going to ask you to put your hands together. Put your hands together for James Andrews. Stretch a bit. I think this mic is working. Is it working? Okay. I don't hear it anymore, but whatever. My mouth is big. I want to, we have only a few minutes before we wind down. So I'm going to ask you all to be as brief as possible. Particular to Montreal, and if applicable, North America. I see in Trinidad the last panorama, and as you know, Egbert, you and I was on WhatsApp having a good old time, that there is a shift between, well, it's a natural shift. We're seeing more and more young arrangers coming out, and they are educated, and yeah, we have to prop up, yeah, props Tobago. A lot more women, because I was busting my head trying to think who in Montreal was an important person, and the closest person I could come to was, help me now, Egbert, Lynette Edwards.
And what's significant about Lynette is the fact that, you know, you always have competing forces in Steelpan, you know, and, you know, one of the things we had to do in Pancho and Big was to try to bring these competing forces together, right? So it's always a question of recognizing Pan, because like I said, Pan is a big, big thing. Everybody who did something for Pan, they have to recognize I did that, and that's just my contribution. I'm not going to get glory. I'm not going to get money. Pan is too big for that. It's like racism. You do your share and you move on. And so Lynette in herself, she had a love for Pan, and I remember in the mid-1990s, Lynette, she, after Institute, and she had all kinds of problems and all kinds of things, but she did get Pan in the community organization, they called it as BCA, but she also did something significant when she brought Ellie Mannett here. And she brought Ellie Mannett, and she brought a good friend of mine called Harold Headley. Harold was the guy who won that 1966 thing they're talking about. Harold, he was like a 16-year-old guy, and he won that soloist that year. 16-year-old, and he beat Martin and them, Yeah, 66. You know, Harold Headley went on to tour with the Headley brothers. They went on to tour with Tripoli and Liberace and those kind of things. Significant. I mean, she did bring him here, and she did her part in trying to think. There was a lot of ugliness and awkwardness along the way, but we have to recognize people for who they are and whatever contributions you make to Pan. It's never about you. It's never about you. When it comes to Pan, they know it because they went through the early days and they struggled. They ain't got no friggin' money. They ain't got no thing, but they did it.
The love of the Pan. So I guess my question is we're seeing young people in Trinidad taking key spots, because for a long time it was the same names over and over and over again, but they're new names and they're trying new things, and some of it working and some of it is understood, and some people are just kind of, you know, there's a lot of conversation that's going on. Here in Montreal, the only people I see getting involved are the ones who did their share. They retire, they're free, and some of these people wanted to come here and came here as artists, but ended up in factories or hospitals. And now that they're free, right, permission to mash up the place. But the youth, I want to hear briefly from each of you, what could we do specific here in Montreal to get parents to bring their youth, to seek you guys out? And we have a young man here who I don't see no granny beard yet, right? How do we do this?
I would, okay, Martin, you can start.
Okay. Wherever I perform, I speak to the audience and I said, I teach Pan at City Hall. Anybody interested, please come on. I speak to the parents. You have kids, it's free. You don't pay a penny. kids don't have money, and I know it's the parents have to pay. I say, come to the city hall. I'm there every Tuesday, Thursday. Come and learn.
Any
That's-
results? See any
When
young people?
not the young people. Unfortunately, not.
Mhm.
I discussed this with Egbert. Egbert told, I forget what he told me. He tell me forget it.
Yeah, well, it's a
There's-
difficult
I don't
task.
know how
It's a difficult
how to
task.
motivate the young people to come and get involved in the
Sarah,
seal
jump
drum.
in anytime, this is the free for all conversation time.
Well, first, but that's it. No?
Salah, you can go, yeah?
That-
Is he hearing us?
Yeah, I'm hearing you guys. I'm listening. Go ahead.
yeah, test.
She's talking about youth
testing,
involvement
testing.
in PAN and how easy or difficult it is to get young people involved. Are you able to answer, talk a little
Yeah,
bit?
well, first, you have to have something that would attract them, number one.
Mhm.
If they are not attracted to it, it's no. So, I could tell you, but for my part, what we intend to do, we intend to, our Steelpan Academy, we are now in the process of trying to make it an accredited school of music, because we're trying to take this thing on another level. So if we were able to get our academy to be an accredited school of music, we'll be able to offer a better program. So this is part of the thing of us trying to redo Montreal. Like, for instance, we have stopped participating in Toronto. So we want to concentrate on Montreal. So we want to bring back all that what we've been doing before. We want to bring back a winter festival where we'll involve the kids in the schools. And we want to bring back a summer festival again where we will involve the kids. In addition, we need to put in our school together in the form of an accredited music program. So again, if you have some right things, and you offer that, people, not just kids, because we are trying to, this is why, let me just tell you, we're not stopping one thing. This is my book, but it's in French.
Mm.
So it's the same textbook, but it's in French, because we intend going into the French sector and bringing this program too. So we do have plans for Montreal, and we intend to bring it about as soon as we can.
Here's one of the problems we had in Trinidad. We, at some point, we tried to put money in the hands of steelpan players. So Panorama, we had decided that, people after me decided that we're going to give everybody in the top 4 bands a certain amount of money. Now, the people that followed us as organizers of Pan and Pan Trinbago, they decided, well, you know what, we'll give everybody it. Now, what happened is that we've turned Steelpan into a mercenary kind of thing, where young people come and they hustle off a pan with no obligation or no real connectiveness to community bands. So if Marshall have a big show, certain bands can't practice because them young people feel more drawn towards Marshall. They're not drawn to the pan like we had it. So all the competing forces, so it makes it a little easier here in Montreal. In Trinidad, I kind of think we lost the battle because those pan guys are all mercenaries now. They're looking to hustle off a pan. I never get money playing pan. Yes, I played pan without a cent, and these guys get $78,000 a season. Martin and them know that they see it,
Never get a penny.
But it's a mercenary thing now. And we did not want that. We wanted to give the top 4 bands, every player get a couple of dollars in their pocket and let people make it like that. As soon as they sort of make it into a hustle, young people turn it into a hustle. Today, everybody under 25, no obligation to a band. They don't even know who the arranger is. They know the name of the song, but they're really skilled at learning songs. So they could learn 3 or 4 songs and get a couple $1,000 to go to.
Yes,
Go ahead, man.
in the Montreal scene. Yeah, in the Montreal scene, we had to get away from jealousy. We had to move from that. We had to start supporting the culture. And this is this thing I noticed throughout my history here in Montreal. It always a jealousy. Yes, we could compete, but not to this jealousy. And we have this jealousy, and we have to concentrate on the youths. Pan for me is like Salah would tell me once, it's pan night and day. I born in Pan, and I'm going to die in Pan. I love the art, but I need the respect. Martin need the respect. Whoever is in Pan, we need the respect from the elders throughout the community. We can't be backstabbing one another. And this is what Salah talk about, shifting the program, shifting the money. That is what happened, right? You running the show, well, I could do another show, and you're doing the show the same night. You're competing.
Some of the jamming
You're
behavior
jamming.
come back.
Yeah, you're jamming. It's a jam, you know? Yeah, we could play jam and thing. Bam, ba-dam, bam, ba-dam, bam, ba-dam, bam, ba-dam. That's a jam. But basically, the youths, right, is the one that could take this to another level. One, you tell me, just last week I was playing in a function in social, and she said to me, James, I understand what happened in the 90s when I think it's one of the best basketball player had offered to pay for a building for us. And the president turned and said, because he didn't have a full forum, he will not encourage that. I asked him why. He said to me, all my children is done big already. I said, so what happened to the future generation? And these kids are asking that question. They asked me that question. How come we're in the year 2023 and we don't have nothing to show for it? That's because of backsliding, right? And we have to move from that. As West Indians, we have come together as one. Look at all the other groups, all the other cultural groups that come here. They are one.
I'm going to jump in here because I have two more questions. So let's say we have the internet, this little thing that everybody has, a big thing. I mean, some of you guys be on Facebook. I see you all. And the littlest of babes is on there doing all sorts of things. So we could promote it. We had hundreds of children who are now parents themselves. So we reach out and try to find some of them and say, hey, why don't you bring your kids? Because it made you disciplined. You had a great time. Well, you know, and music education is fabulous upbringing. So what are we going to teach them? Are we going to only teach them classical music, Adele, or will we do reggae, calypso, and soca? I'm just throwing it out there because, you know, young people might say, look, I want to play Drake on Pan. What do you do? I want to just hear from you all your thoughts on that, because there is a culture in Trinidad, and for sure, soca and calypso is going to get played. And so sure, they could play, you know, a mainstream tune, if you will. But here in North America, I want to hear what you guys think about that.
Sometimes when I'm working with my group, whether it's the young people or the seniors, I give them an option. I said, I have tunes in mind that I would like to do, but is there something that you like? I give them that opportunity. You understand? That way, they would be doing something that they're interested in doing. But on the topic of young people, when I was having problems getting young people, I discussed with Egbert. I said, you have any ideas what to do? He said, go into the schools. And I went in the 3 schools in LaSalle, the French school. Nothing came out of it. Nothing.
You know, it's the thing about Pan, right? Trinidad culture is such that in Trinidad, the panorama culture dominate. Yeah. So, you know, we start preparing for panorama in November, and we go all the way, nuts and corn from dusk till dawn. That's how we live on nuts and corn from dusk till dawn, just to get a panorama tune. That's the best 10 minutes any human being could spend in my thing. When you play that panorama song on stage, it's a different culture. So here you still have virgin territory. You still can get those people to like Pan. Pan is like the most beautiful. I mean, you hear James and them, it's for real. They really like it. You start into Pan, you love it. You can't get away. You have to do that here. You have to share that love.
Well, I started a program in Centennial High School in the South Shore, and we applied for the grant. The board approved the grant. The grant came through, and then the secretary come and tell me, Jamesy, Mr. Andrews, we can't give you all that money. We had to split the program. So instead of doing a year program, I ended up doing a 6-month program, and wanted me to apply for another grant. I said no, because the grant goes through the school, and once they go through the school, they take it, right? And right now, I still have a set of hands there. So this is what's happening in the culture. A lot of racial discrimination is going on with our art form. A lot of it. And when you face these people, they're very arrogant, right? So,
well, yes, look. Listen again. Look, I'm not too impressed with the questions. To be honest, I'm not too impressed with the questions. To be honest, I'm not yes, we can talk about the youth and so on, but there's some other issues. Then I think that should come to the forefront.
I have your pet issue coming up shortly.
Okay. Well, look, I'm talking about advocacy for steel pan development. I was on Duvon Stewart show last week. This is a Trinidad talk show, and I was not afraid to mention then that what we need to do, especially in Trinidad needs to set up an exclusive ministry for the steel pan. This is something that I've been promoting for over 20 years. And I think it's the only way that they can do something that would be worthwhile. With a ministry, they'll be able to set up an entire steel pan industry. And there's a place that they have already an industrial sector for steel pan in Twin City. So they should be we have given them an idea of what they should be doing, and we'd like to promote that concept. That is one of the things that I think it's important today, that Trinidad should move forward with trying to set up a steel pan industry. And to do this, the best vehicle that I've been speaking about for the past 20 years is an exclusive ministry for the steel pan. It's very radical and but it's something that is needed. And we need to make those type of bold statements and bold initiatives, so that's something, otherwise we'll be doing the same thing over and over. Since 20 years, and I raised this issue, and I have yet to find an issue comparable or better than that.
What about here for North America? To keep children, if we're having trouble attracting children, for sure, go back to the schools. We knew it worked before, but does music choice make a difference to young people?
Well, of course, you have to play what the young people are accustomed to, and steel pan can do all of that. We can play all different genres of music. It's just that Caribbean and Trinidadian people just love soca and panorama, so they get locked into that vein and can't see beyond that, because all the time is taken up in preparing a panorama song. But you need to play everything, every genre of music, and this is what it can do. But there's a bigger stuff that has to happen here, like in Montreal, and it needs to get the support and resources available to make things happen. We are coming back to do all that we can in Montreal, and we are hoping that this time around we can get some support and resources to do what we want to do with steel pan development in Montreal.
Look, the disconnect between steel pan and community is pronounced. I mean, that's been going on for a while, right? So we as pan people, we have to make it attractive. We have to work at connecting. We can't expect that this is going to happen. In Trinidad, what has happened is they have this panorama culture. Well, they shift from playing the standard calypso, and you hear them playing some of them soca songs, and Duvon Stewart and some of the younger arrangers are really doing nice things with voice tune, and some of the younger people. Same obligation here. You have to work at making people want to be in pan. You have to build a community feeling around pan. They got to feel part of something bigger.
That they belong. Now, when pan really exploded and they had all these international pan happenings, And then Japan had pan in Japan, and everybody did well. Now you can't hear cuss. The thief we ting, they gone with it. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Is there a risk of us losing? I talk in here in North America. If we, I'm not even trouble in Trinidad. Je me souviens, eh? I only married into the culture. But here, you seed it, you grow it, you do something here. There was cultural appropriation on other forms of Black arts and culture. Is there a risk of that in North America here?
Yes, there is. Yes, there
Okay,
is.
I want to go to
Let me
Salah
jump in-
first.
Let me jump in here with this. I just sent you all something recently. I sent it to Westcan also. What happened is that last Friday or so, I was teaching a class in Toronto. Okay. Now, 20 years ago, I told the Toronto Steelpan community, the teachers who were teaching Steelpan in the public schools, I said to them, if you don't get your act together, and you don't improve your way of how you're doing this business, you can't just do it how you did it in the panyards back home. So you have to do in a school environment. So you have to teach theory with everything with the music. If you don't, those same kids that you are teaching, they're going to go to a music school, get theory, music, and come back and take away your job. Well, today, like I said, Friday, I'm sitting in a class, teaching a class, and then this gentleman came in. He didn't announce himself. There's a lot of disrespect, and privileged people do this, and this is why we have to stand up against all type of institutional racism, and we have to speak on it, you see. So here's what, this gentleman came in, and I'm teaching the class. He didn't say anything. He didn't ask anything. Towards the end of the class, one of the students asked, who is he? And that's when this guy spoke up. He's now saying that he's a Steelpan teacher. He's now about to start this class in this school, okay? But he didn't announce this. He didn't, as a respect for a teacher, he didn't do anything like that. What he was doing was what? Just copying and trying to learn everything in a sneakish way. So this is the type of thing that's going on. And this is now an older guy, non-Caribbean stuff. Now, I have no problem with non-Caribbean people doing this because, listen, we invented this instrument and it's similar to the saxophone. And the saxophone, for instance, it was not accepted as a real instrument. But when we got people like Charlie Parker and these type of people playing this instrument, it became very famous. So something similar that could happen with the pan. So it's not about we're starting to stop people from doing it. But what I'm saying, and I said to the people, if you don't start to take care of your business, somebody else is going to appropriate it. Somebody's going to take it. And this is what is happening right now in Toronto. While they are so busy, and I rebuked them on it because I told them in Toronto, you are just busy with a panorama competition. And you have, with 12 bands, you have maybe 400 people there. But none of these people are ending up in the public schools going to teach because you are not encouraging them to do that. You're just in one track and, a one-dimensional business with the Steelpan. And now it's been taken over. So yes, we have to stand up and we have to make this known. And I'm hoping that the people in Toronto can wake up and realize and smell the coffee because they're going to lose. Their stuff is going to be taken away from them.
I'm going to ask Martin and then come down the line. Your opinions. Is it something that you fear? Can cultural appropriation ever take over the pan and run with it?
I don't know. All we can do is continue trying to promote. That's the only thing we can do. In the Caribbean, the older people had a mentality of punishing you for not doing what they would like to do. So that can't work. So I don't see what is possible to do here. I mean, all we can do is try to promote as much as we could, which is what I say that I do all the time. And that's it. Try to encourage. That's it.
Jamesy?
I think it have to come from standardization. For many years, we've been trying to get this, to standardize the instrument so no one could claim it right? And everyone, right? That's why I say we have this kind of split, right? This one did a double tenor, this one did a tenor, and this one did that. And nobody want to come to the forum to say, listen, let's standardize it. Like Salah was mentioning, let's form an organization for pan tuning. For pan tuning, exclusively because the Trinidad and Tobago Associate, all they do, Trinidad and Tobago, all they do is supporting a panorama, pan men. And the tuners fall by the wayside. We don't have nobody representing us. And it's time that we pick it up to try to get all the tuners together, regardless. Everybody get a share. All the older tuners who put their bid in it, right, in bringing this instrument to the foreground, right, should come together and come to, even if we're just getting royalties on it, at least everybody get a little bit, right?
Something.
Done nothing. And if we do this, right, it will sort of discourage those who come in to try to claim it. We are two guys in New York are trying to claim it, right? We have to stop them in 90, I think in 91 from patenting it. So
Someone tried to patent.
yes,
it.
yes.
Just so.
No, they didn't patent it. We stopped
Tori,
it.
give me.
We stopped it.
Egbert.
I'll tell you something. I'm a journalist, right? And journalism today is conflicted with the internet. You go online and you see stuff, you don't know what it is, if it's you don't know. All kinds of news.
It hasn't
right?
been fact checked.
It's like, okay. So
Wild West.
two journalists. So Camila is in the room here.
Uh-huh.
She's an editor with a big magazine in the States.
Mhm.
The only way Camila and myself compete with what's going on online is by being good. By being the best we can. She can fact check. She knows stuff. She's bright, right? It's the same with Pan. Pan is we gotta be good at what we do. We gotta claim at all level. Right now, Panorama level, let's do Panorama the best we can. Let's do Pan through the eyes of the Calypsonian. Let's do classics and carols. Let's broaden the whole
Broaden
scope
it.
of Pan. Let's make it attractive and be good at all aspects of it. It's good if Japan take it. Let France try. Let everybody take it. That's the instrument was born for that. I don't want to be the only person sharing the glory of Pan. I love Pan since 7 years old. I'm good. Let everybody enjoy that joy and that passion. Let them enjoy the passion. Let it get from it. But the thing is, we have to do the best we can right where we are. Do the best you can right where you are with what you have. In Montreal, do the best you
with
can
what we
you
have.
have. And we can worry about other people because technology doesn't allow you to claim anything or to keep anything. Are you crazy?
Okay.
Technology is like everybody's ready to go. All right.
So I want the final thing. What are you doing? Where next can we see you? Where can people get your CD? What are your social media handles? This is the time where you show off little for me now, Martin.
No, well, I'm on Facebook, and people know my name, so just go look for Martin Albino on Facebook. And what again? My email is albino, like my name, albino martin 86@gmail.com. What else? My phone number is 514 568-1995, 514-568-1995. That's my cell, so you can WhatsApp and whatever. I give that number because on my landline you can't do WhatsApp and stuff like that. And like I said, I'll be performing next week for the city of LaSalle. There's a walkathon to support the home. What do you call the home? Not the geriatric home. There's a new home in LaSalle. What do you call it?
Assisted living.
Right. So there's a walkathon for that, and I'm going to be performing to motivate the people to take the walk, and when they reach back and everything. I will also be performing with my group on the 12th of July in Park Marie Claire something in LaSalle. Eh? Yeah, that's it. Okay, and then I'll be having my fundraiser on the 10th of September, and I'll be having my Christmas concert on the 10th of December. So we'll be out there, and anybody interested, I can't complain.
You're in the thing, man. You're in the thing. Salah, where can people get the book, connect with you? I think a lot was discussed today. A lot of food for thought, like-minded people, and because I don't think you were hidden, because I know where to find you, but there's probably a lot of people who didn't know two of the pioneers in Pan were living right here in Montreal, so they might want to find you. So Salah, where can we find you? Where can people connect with you, get that book?
Okay. It's very simple. It's www.salahpan.com, salahpan.com, and phone number is 647-832-4820. However,
Slow that number down again for me, Salah.
647-832-4820. But I want to say something very important. I think whenever we have a platform like this, and we miss the opportunity to make certain things known and said, then we have failed. You see? And the pan is very important. It has a very important part to play, and we have to put it in the right context. If I may, am I allowed to say a few things here?
Right. Sure, you have about 2 minutes.
It's not enough. I tell you it's not, but I'll start.
Sorry, I'm looking at the time because I do.
Take my time, Salah. Go on.
Well, listen to this, and I'll try to be as brief as possible, please. Okay, but we cannot afford to miss this opportunity. My parents was not able to say what I'm about to say, and I do not want to leave this for the next generation of my children or my grandchildren to start this conversation. Okay, just recently in Trinidad, there was something that says Trinidadians are now number 6 in the world of crime. Number 6. That is a frightening thing. The question is, who are the people committing this crime? And I'm going to cut to the chase and say it's all kind of people committing crime. And there's white collar and blue collar. But in this case in Trinidad here, it's the black people committing crime. The question is why? And to answer this question, you have to go back to the root to find out the cause of this. You have to diagnose and go to the problem. And I'll tell you quickly where it goes. It goes all the way back to emancipation. All the way back to emancipation. After emancipation, Trinidadians walked off the plantation. From walking off the plantation in 1838, after 4 years, they walked off the land. Walking off the plantation and walking off the land meant you have nothing to get, and they got nothing to invest. So Trinidadians had nothing, African Trinidadians had nothing to invest after walking off the plantation 200 years ago. And no one cared about them. Governments came and went, and nothing was done. So today, those same Trinidadians are experiencing generational poverty. Now, another people came in to replace the African Trinidadians, our Indian brothers from India. They did no heavy lifting. It's not their fault that they came. It's not the richest, the poorest of them from India came. But you know what? They stayed on the land. They were given the land, and they stayed on the land. So when everything changed, because when there's an oil boom that came in Trinidad, the people who remained on the land had their wealth just increased, whereas the people who didn't have any land were still without. The other thing is that all through the times between post-emancipation to present time, the people who owned the land were able to get loans and whatever from banks because they had collateral. And the African Trinidadian had nothing like that. So you wonder why today this is the situation in Trinidad. It's not the same in Jamaica and Barbados because they didn't have the influx of people from India to come into Barbados. Apparently, they stayed on the plantation. They didn't walk off in Barbados and Jamaica. So when you go Barbados and Jamaica, It's African Trinidad, African Bajan, and African Jamaican owning the properties. Not the same in Trinidad. You see? So this is something that no one of the governments addressed. And it's something that we should address. You see, after emancipation, we dropped the ball. And we went to just play mass, and we appropriated the Mardi Gras Carnival, which the emancipation celebration combined with the Mardi Gras Carnival became Trinidad Carnival. But by so going and play mass and the bacchanal and the fretting and all of that, we totally eliminated the concept of emancipation. So we stopped celebrating emancipation. The problem with that is, from the time you stop celebrating emancipation, you stop talking about it, you never get to the next step, which is reparation. Have we ever seen that word in our history books or our social books? Reparation? No. We saw one line of emancipation. Emancipation 1834. That's it. You see, we got to pick back up the ball after 100 years of dropping the ball and only playing mass. You know, we need to pick up the ball now and start to talk about emancipation so that we could get to reparation. And again, like I told them in Trinidad, you know, have an emancipation panorama, emancipation Calypso King, emancipation soca, emancipation everything. But the point is, start talking about emancipation so that we could get to reparation. And every platform that we have as Black people, we should be making use of that, you know, and we should be calling on all white people to support us in this cause.
I thank you for your passion. Egbert, you have a few seconds.
I know you're
really a few seconds.
100% agree with Salah, with what Salah is saying. Except, you know what? Listen, we come from slavery, and from slavery we went to colonization, and the facade that was left by Europe, that facade is still in place in Africa, the Caribbean, and the Pacific, ACP countries. So Salah is talking about emancipation and preparation, and that's part of the process. But we have countries like Trinidad where, you know, red-skinned people still rule the roost, and darker skin people like James and then could go certain places, and I can't go certain places because he read. So the facade of colonization remains. So we have a lot of work to do at the bottom level. And again, the steel pan represents part of that work. Why? One reason, come from us, in the hood, in the passion, James and Martin and Spree and Fisheye, you know, all these guys. Remember me in the Dragon Can Dance? I played Fisheye, right? That's the roots of the pan, right? And that's where it is. And so that's why we could use the pan to build communities, to empower young people, and to go forward.
And
but
to
we
tell our
have to connect
stories
with old people. We have to connect with James and Martin and them.
Well,
Martin,
that's
I get
why.
to call you old. You know, so yeah, so there you go.
Yeah. I would like to inform the people out there, the music lovers. I have a gospel CD. It's a beautiful CD. It is on CD Baby, Pan World Gospel. Just tune in and support me so that I'll be able to continue to support the community.
Tell people that we're going to be doing, I hope we can get a nice little series of articles out of this, because we have a...
Look for community contact. What is it online, Egbert?
MontrealCommunityContact.com.
MontrealCommunityContact.com if you want to connect with editor and publisher Egbert Gaye. On CD Baby, look for Pan World. And of course, it's Albino Martin 86 at gmail.com, and Salah, salahpan.com. Is that correct?
That's
I
correct.
did that correct?
That's as simple
Let's
as
not
that.
forget West Can Folk, the producers of tonight's activity. If you like what you saw here, register so you could be informed and have more information on the rest of Carnival. Is mass movement and music. We have an exciting wire bending class coming up on May 13th. And that's it. Anything in here I have to talk about? Steelpan. If you want to learn how to play Steelpan, Uh-huh. Register right away. Some of you who played in elementary schools, right? Mr. Pong, honey, come and hug me up now. Come, darling, come. I'm giving you the last word. He has no gray in your beard. Give you a few seconds. And these are some of the people who are going to be teaching the youth. Ladies, girls, we need more people, more women. We have Fatima and Zainab and Rachel, but we need more women in Pan. What do you get from all of this in 40 seconds or less?
That's kind of a loaded question. I feel like Salah was saying, we would need way more time. I share his passion. I'm still learning a lot, as much as wanting to teach as well. It's an honor to be here among these pioneers and to share a little bit with you, represent the youth a little bit. For me, I mean, I come from Salah Steelpan Academy, and I try to do my best to represent, to share for Pan, to give back.
Is there hope for Pan in Montreal?
I think so. I think there's hope for Pan in Montreal. I think that I was hoping that maybe this panel might have a mix of younger folk along with the elders, and that's not a slight to anybody. I know there's probably some logistical reason as to why that wasn't the case, but I think what would have been more rich would have been to have the youth along with the elders to share perspective, Yeah, there's definitely hope for Pan in Montreal. I'm gonna do my part. I've recently acquired a second instrument to be able to teach private lessons, so that's something that I want to figure out how to do. In the meantime, I feel as though there needs to be more of an exchange between the elders and the younger folk to tackle these issues. Yeah, Salah has a lot to say, and I really big him up for everything that he's taught for me and the community at large. I can only really speak just from being in proximity to the academy and everything. But along the way, I've come across Mr. Albino, Jamesy recently, Egbert through time, and I appreciate all of your contributions, because Montreal, I didn't know certain things about Montreal having to do with Pan, so there's definitely hope. I feel like there's definitely hope.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
There's hope. Share the live. Thank you, Martin Albino. Thank you, James Andrew. Thank you, Egbert Gaye and Dr. Salah Wilson. Thank you. Thank you, audience in the room. Thank you, audience online. Share the live. Okay.
I was part of this community, moved away, and I'm back. And I had quite a learning with Salah. And one of the things that excites me now is coming up with a solution to encourage the youth. And one of the things that I feel that we should have not to be suppressed by is grant dependency. So I think that, well, now I'm retired, so I have a little bit more time to get more involved, but I totally believe that we have to find that thing for attraction and generate a source of self. Nucleism, not totally dependent on building everything from getting something. It's just like I came to this country and I built I raised a family. I work in a factory. I do whatever I had to do. I went to school, I learned a trade. So now if we have to do something, we have to look for reasons with the youths and the people involved and do it. I'm not saying we can't look for help, but if we depend on that help, that is what they call, it's contaminated with the racists and the colonialism in state still, we ain't gonna go no place. So I'm around and willing to get involved, find that thing that could be attractive. Like you can't catch flies with acid. That's it. So let's look for the honey and have the courage to put something out. Thank you. So I'm around, I'm back.
Look like we started something. We started something. I better go before more people come. My name is Pat Dillon Moore. It was a joy to be here. We're going to play some music in here, eat some food, share the live, share. Wilson and Salah and family on the video. Thank you, everybody.
them the drum is done now. Mass, come again, and everybody chanting now. Look at the people coming down. Together, together, now we strong. Look at the people coming down. Together, together, now we strong. I hear a distant melody blow through the hills of Lavantie. Music powerful and sweet, and when the rhythm start to beat, look how it take away the pain. I can't explain it in my veins. Find myself down in Port of Spain. I'm not the same, so got to play every creed and race. Everybody down in the heart of Port of Spain. Mass, come again. Well, look how the place on fire now. Mass, come again. A spirit to bring the power down. Mass, come again. Give them the drum is done now. Mass, come again. And everybody chanting now. Look at the people coming down. Together, together, now we strong. Look at the people coming down. Together, together, now we strong. Heart of the sweetest melody. Music, mass, and love, my trinity. In a world so cold, how we so free. Welcome, let me tell you honestly. Look how it take away the pain. I can't explain it in my veins. Find myself down in Port of Spain. I'm not the same, so got to play